When talking about the best lyricists of all time in hip hop, there's always one name that comes to conversation, and it's Nas, and it's for a good reason. He's been active for 4 decades now, and he just released a new studio album called King's Disease 2. It's absolutely fantastic, and guys, we're going to be giving our full review and reaction of the album. It just came out, and listen, man, this might be an album of the year contender for me because this is fucking fantastic.
It is amazing, and if you guys are new to the channel, the way that we actually do our album reviews is different from the rest because we actually have different categories that we break down. So we have artist performance, we have content, we have features, production, replay value based on our first instinct after hearing the album, and then our overall rating. And instead of a numerical value system, we actually have different scores based on words. So we have bad, mid, good, amazing, and perfect. So we'll be giving those scores for each category, and let us know your ratings for each category in the comments and your expectations for what the future of Nas's career might be, because I mean, he's showing no signs of slowing down, and this album proved that, I mean, this was even better to me than what he did on the first King's Disease, which actually got him the Grammy.
Absolutely. And what do you think is going to happen now, especially like going forward? Like, he just dropped a fantastic project. There's so many layers to this. So obviously, guys, like, this is off of a first listen. We could only get through so much. So, what were your first expectations going into this when you heard he was going to drop a second edition of King's Disease?
It was kind of weird because there wasn't heavy promo at all compared to the first one, at least. And not only that, but he was dropping on the same day that Donda was supposed to be coming out. So I found that a bit unusual. And not only that, but I'm like, okay, you're doing a sequel to an album that you put out just 1 year ago. So I was kind of confused as to what this was going to sound like, but I was really pleasantly surprised. This was much better than I thought it would be.
Absolutely. So on that note, let's start this review off with artist performance. So going into this project, I mean, you could expect so much from Nas, like introspective writing, mogul talk. I'm talking about his spirituality, talking about different anecdotes on the game, and going throughout this whole track list, I find there's so many standouts. And I want to start with The Pressure. This is the intro track, and it's crazy because in his first verse, he starts off about talking about his relationship with the game and sort of advantages that come with it, and then you sort of see how he goes through all of this. So talking about his performance, where do you think the standouts were for him in your opinion?
For me, it's just the fact that he's still a top tier lyricist at this point in the game, and as he raps on the album, it's 4 generations that he's been a part of, and he's still able to be at that top caliber level. Not only that, but on this album, I feel like he showed a wider range of flows than he did on the previous albums that we got in Nazir and King's Disease. Not only that, but I mean, his ability to show how he can transcend time and perform on trap beats as well as more jazzy instrumentals, that was mind-blowing to me as well. Not only that, man, but if you look at the rhyme schemes and the multi-syllable rhymes, the internal rhymes, I'll read you out a verse on EPMD 2. Pull up with the ghost like a haunted house, she getting scary, blood on my hands like Carrie, might walk through a cemetery to see where hip-hop is buried. I said it was dead, but it faked its death like Machiavelli. You see letters in red splatter, look like sauce and spaghetti. If you break that down and see all the internal rhymes and the way that, the verse progresses, it's fucking mind-blowing.
Absolutely.
Man.
And he also has these great braggadocious moments on the album as well where he's taking victory laps. So I read out a bar from Rare that really stuck with me. I said, like, okay, homie, I don't need a jeweler to freeze me. Ice in my veins, I make it look easy. Like, there's always these double entendres going on in any sort of Nas writing, and that's exactly what you got here. I also love the fact that he was able to be diverse on different types of production. So example, something like Brunch on Sundays, where it's more mellowed out, and he has to sort of use his imagery to sort of give you that sort of image of where he's at and on Sunday, and being like with different friends and smoking on the hookah and doing sort of different things. Like, I loved how he was able to create this universe for me within the album and sort of give me an inside picture on his life. So yeah, and painting all these pictures were just beautiful.
And that's one thing that I loved about the album is, like, if you look at a song like Store Run, which is one of my favorites, he's really giving you that detailed imagery and giving you an inside look on his life. And he has one bar, which I'm going to kind of paraphrase. He raps like, I'm in between 2 Argentinian sisters and they're counting my stacks until my fingers get blisters. Like, just, you don't see that anymore in hip hop where someone gets that detailed and really pays attention to all the specifics of their life. And that was amazing. But not only that, I just love the fact that nearly 30 years after his debut album, he's still displaying passion throughout his voice. He
That's
still
facts.
wants to be fucking rapping and doing it at the highest level. And for that reason, we have to give the artist's performance a perfect rating because he is not slowing down on any level. And it sounds like he can be rapping till the age of 60 if he wants to.
There's no slowing down for Nas at this point, and it's for a good reason. He will always come with energy and presence on a track list, and you could talk about maybe the production or the features on this album, but it's Nas who carries this. There was never a time where I questioned this performance because, as I mentioned at the beginning of this review, he is one of the best lyricists of all time, if not the best, and there's no slowing down for this guy. Like the imagery, the punchlines, the extra, like the braggadocious bars, like he does not stop. And even on songs like, let's say, Nobody, where he's talking about being connected to his higher self and start getting into more of like a spiritual realm, really helps me because it gives me introspection and it gives, me more food for thought. So I absolutely loved it, and I gotta agree, this is good. Deserves a perfect
So what
rating.
did you take out of the content matter the most? Like which kind of themes really stuck out to you more than anything else?
Oh, there's a couple of different ones, but for the most part, I think it was just more of Nas being ahead of the game more than anything, like proving that, yes, you guys are maybe, doing certain things and you guys are selling records, you guys are doing things in excess, but I'm more on my vibe. I'm more on let's say, on a higher level and a higher level of thinking, like on a song like Nobody, him talking about how he wants to be in a sort of remote location where he doesn't have to be connected to anything, but he could kind of be neutral and shit, like no problems, but still being connected to himself. So it was a lot of deep introspective writing that I'm going to have to go back and relate to and grab those parallels. But how about you? What type of messages do you get out of this
Look,
album?
man, to me, Nas has always been a prophet for hip hop, and he will continue to be. And I mean, if you just look at, like you were saying, the song Nobody, he has a bar where he says, the concept of this song is rather esoteric. And that's what I love about Nas, that he throws out this vocabulary that I'm stuck, fucking Google searching what these words mean. And esoteric actually means that, like, only few people will understand what I'm saying and kind of the knowledge that I'm spitting. And on that song, it's kind of about putting ego aside and really focusing on love and nurturing yourself and the people around you. And I love that. Not only that, but the Bible is another standout for me because he has 3 different verses, and each verse kind of depicts a different sentiment. So the first one is about men, the second one is about you get what you give, and the third one's about women. And the second one hit me the most because he's kind of talking about you get what you give and how manifestation plays a role in almost everybody's life. And he says how, rappers shouldn't be talking about how they're going to die one day because that sadly ends up, turning into a reality in a lot of cases. And he's also rapping about how if you go towards a demonic kind of sight, if you go towards the evils of life and you're lured by that, then it's not gonna serve you well in the long run. And it turns out that your jewelry might curse you, your cars might curse you, and it's really interesting because I feel like he was maybe talking about Lil Nas X and how some younger rappers are going towards that satanic imagery and kind of putting that on a bigger audience for the mainstream and how dangerous that could be. So that really stood out to me, man.
Even a song like Moments was super deep for me because, it was sort of the thing where Nas was going over the moments that meant the most in his life and the moments he wished he had had. So example, like talking about how he wished that he was able to meet Muhammad Ali or Sister Souljah. Like there's a bunch of different sort of moments that he's going through, and he's like, these are things that you have to live in the moment and you have to appreciate, because once that moment's over, you're stuck being like, I wish I would have appreciated that more if I would have paid attention, if I would have absorbed the passion, if I would have been myself, and I would have had the knowledge to be able to sort of scope out everything that's happening. So there was also like this really, really deep sense of like, I would say connection to the world with Nas, where he was trying to, put people onto game, not maybe on how to make money, but just be better with themselves and how to better their lives. Because at the end of the day, yes, there was braggadocious bars about him sipping on Moet, and there was different bars about him in his different Benzes or in the Rolls Royce. But at the end of the day,
he's braggadocious in a different way,
where it's motivating and
is.
and where he kind of takes you through a different journey and a path where like, this is what my full potential brought me, but that doesn't have to be you. You could grab your own potential and harvest it in any way you want, and that's what I got through on the track.
And we got that kind of messaging on composure. We also got it on the intro track where he's rapping about how he's proud that he's been able to set up scholarship programs in his communities, and like that's the type of braggadocious bars that I want to be hearing from Nas at this point in his career. Not only that, but I'm not sure if it's on the song Moments or on the song Store Run, but he has a bar where he says like, I haven't been known to be always getting these features, but it's time for me to embrace new leaders.
Yeah.
I love that sentiment because he's aging like fine wine and he knows his stature in the game. He knows that, you know, as he's creeping into his 50s, he might only be giving us a couple of more gems and albums. And this self-awareness from Nas is fucking everything to me. And in all honesty, no album in 2021 will probably give me as much game and as much knowledge as Nas did with King's Disease 2.
I want to read a line off of Count Me In before we give our final rating for the content. Listen to this. I ain't worried about none of them. They bleed how I bleed, suffering from their symptoms of King's disease. Like, just that's fucking game. Like, think about that. Like, him talking about how he does not fear a man because at the end of the day, we all go into the grave. And at the end of the day, he's all right because he knows what other people are suffering from. So the greed, the envy, the lust, all the things that could bring people down in their lives. And that's all that. Think about that much game in 2 lines, you know, and you have a full 15-track album of this for 56 minutes straight. So I absolutely love the content.
Do you think that this is going to end up being what people remember as, let's say, Nas's 444? Like, do you see any similarities to Jay-Z's 2017 album?
I think it's just him kicking game. Like, any sort of album that Nas delivers, it's always him kicking knowledge. It's always him showing that different perspective than what everyone else is doing. Because there was also moments in the album where he was talking about, you know, how other rappers were giving people, you know, luxury lifestyle talk and mogul talk and other things about making money and sort of like the blueprint. But he was on a different vibe where he was trying to get people to be okay with themselves and have their soul right. So, yes, I think there are elements of it, but in my opinion, Nas has been doing this forever, and he started this back in, let's say, the 90s with Illmatic, where he was talking about different subject matter.
Yeah,
like
that's
that.
why. The evolution's amazing because even on Nazir, let's say, on every song, on all 7 songs, each one is kind of depicting a different deadly sin. And we get that here, of course, with King's Disease, where he's kind of focusing on greed and gluttony and how if you eat too much off of what you're making, in the long run, it's going to hurt you. Not only that, but I also love the Vito Corleone reference where he's saying how, like, just like The Godfather, I want to die in my garden. Like, I want to die in peace, and not because of any violence or any shit that I've gotten myself into. I just want to be at peace, you know, towards the end of my life. And he seems to be at peace. And for that reason, I think we have to give this an amazing rating because he's spitting so much game. And he's also reminiscing a lot about his life like he did on King's Disease. But it's amazing to see what he's able to do here. But why didn't it get the perfect rating for you?
This is the thing, though, is that, like, it's not that it doesn't deserve the perfect rating because the content, let's say if you go through audit, there's not a single blemish or flaw with it. It's just like, I've gotten this on every single Nas album.
We've gotten it before. We've
gotten it before, you know, like there was just that maybe that bit of innovation that was missing, but it's not to say that that's a gripe. Like, that's not a gripe for me. It's just, you know, that's what maybe would have pushed it to that perfect.
He elevated those themes, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
He didn't necessarily bring in too much, you know, new content matter to his catalog, but he really elevated and progressed. But let's now talk about the features because I think the first thing that people noticed when the track list came out was like, holy fuck, there's Eminem and Nas for the first fucking time in history, and there's the return of Lauryn Hill. So what were your first impressions seeing those names, and did they live up to those expectations?
They absolutely did, and it was the first time where I went into a track list actually being happy about the features because a lot of feature lists this year were a bit repetitive. Like, you know, I've gotten so many different features and I've gotten so many different feature lists where I'm just like, okay, you know, I could do without this. Like, I'd rather just hear the artist talk. But when you have Eminem linking up for the first time with Nas, that was beautiful because I never really expected it. I didn't think, especially like where they're at in both of their careers, that they would link up and deliver a song like that. But I'm not gonna lie to you, I was a bit underwhelmed by Eminem's verse. I'm gonna like that's kind of the emotion I get.
Man.
That's kind of the emotion.
Okay, tell me why.
Okay, no, you go first. Why do you?
No, I want to know what your criticisms are.
I didn't like the way he started his verse. Like, I feel as if he tries to force the same flow and same delivery on every single verse he goes on, especially for the start of the verse. And I was actually happy that I was able to salvage the verse towards the end when he started shouting out people and he started saying like, "Listen, you know, I hope my name goes down with the Jays, goes down with the Waynes, goes down with the Drakes." He even shouted out Drake
and Kanye West too.
So I appreciated that part of it. It's just like, it sounded a bit off of.
I think you got this one wrong, and I think it'll age better for you when you re-listen to it. Because
I hope it does.
To me, yes, you kind of get a bit of that whiny delivery from Eminem at the beginning, but he sounds really youthful here. To me, his voice kind of sounds like it would have, let's say, on an album like Recovery in a sense. Not only that, but I love the fact that there's like 4 different flow switches. So the way you were saying about the flow being stagnant, I totally disagree with that, to be honest.
No, not the flow being stagnant in the verse. I'm talking about like
The same flows.
I've heard that same
I
flow from
disagree,
him
man.
on so many
And
different
not only
occasions.
that, but you have to appreciate the way that he's fucking twisting his words, man. Because what I love about Eminem, and he's done this in the past, but he does it again here brilliantly, is he twists those words to kind of change the pronunciation of them, and that makes the bars and the double entendres hit even harder. So one example is, I'm eating you like bitchs, like tortilla chips, like. It doesn't sound like the craziest thing, but the wordplay behind the bars hit every time. And I just love the fact that just like Eminem was doing in the 2000s on a song like Till I Collapse, he's doing it again here, where his true goal is really to be placed amongst the greats. And look, we do have to get, better projects from Eminem, but this was a step in the right direction and one of the best features on the album for me. It really amazed me, man.
It wasn't for me, and it was also like he started talking about like cocaine and lean and having that on him, and I was just kind of like, you mentioned.
No, he was advocating against that, I'm pretty sure.
Well, I'd have to go back to that verse, but that's what I had gotten in my notes. If I made a mistake, guys, let me know in the comment sections. But that's what I had gotten from that Eminem verse, and I was just like, hold on, I'm gonna pull this up right here. Let me go through the verse.
I'm pretty sure he was advocating against it because like he's always made fun of kind of the drug culture in hip hop. So I'm pretty sure that's what that is, to be honest.
Wait, hold on, because it's a long verse.
Did you find it?
It's a super long verse. It's towards the middle. I can't. Okay,
let me pull it up.
So please call me Big Daddy. Plus, I got Kane and Lean on me. So I don't know if he's I don't know if he's making fun of it, but I just like I don't understand like the drug reference, especially like through everything he's been through in like past content matter. But whatever, I definitely have to give him more time. I'm not shitting on the verse. It definitely
Lean on Me is actually a song by Big Daddy Kane, actually. So I think that he's kind of doing a play on words there. I'm shouting out a Big Daddy Kane song.
Oh, fuck. Okay, I fucked up then.
It's all good,
Wait, hold
man.
on. Let me see the annotation on Genius. Am shouts out many rap legends in this verse. This line in particular, he name drops rapper Big Daddy Kane through some nice wordplay, one of Eminem's inspirations to rap himself. Okay, my bad for that.
It's all
then.
good.
No, I misread the verse. But
let's talk about the other features.
So how was Lauryn Hill for you? How did you feel about that?
That's one of the best feature verses of the entire year.
One of the best verses of the entire year.
When I saw Lauryn Hill's name in the track list, I was very excited, but I thought that it was going to kind of be a similar formula as to what we got on If I Ruled the World. It was written, where she was just going to give a chorus, or maybe I'm like, okay, maybe, Nas will do the formulaic thing and just sample her instead of actually giving her a verse, but she was rapping on this, and I love that she gave insight on, the reason why she hasn't dropped music in so long and the reason why she stayed secluded, and it's because, she doesn't want to become a parody. She doesn't want to do shit for the popularity. And that shit just really stuck with me. And she was just talking about the different energies in her life and how, being to herself and, displaying love to the world has really made her the woman that she is. And she's the fucking queen of hip hop, man. If she would have, been rapping consistently, she would have had one of the best discographies of all time. And her work with the Fugees and, of course, the miseducation of Miss Lauryn Hill speak for themselves.
Absolutely, and I love the way she starts off this verse. Listen to this. All my time has been focused on my freedom now. Why would I join him when I know that I could beat him? So, that like just those two lines there, like kind of give you that whole indication on where her career is at and where her life is at. Because that was the thing, is that it was such a mystery to people. Like, yo, why didn't she end up, having that discography and that lengthy discography? Because she had dropped 2 classic projects in the 90s and then sort of stopped everything. And I was doing some background research on this, and apparently she also had some vocal problems, and she had a lot of problems with labels. And a big part for her was that she didn't want to start fucking with labels because she was afraid that they were going to fuck her and that they were going to start taking her money like that. So,
and that speaks to the freedom bar, right?
Absolutely. So, just like think about how many artists get fucked by record labels, on money wise and all these percentages. Like, she completely went against that route, and she said, fuck it, I'll collect what I can off of my 2 albums that I made, and I'll have a legendary career. And listen, Miss Lauryn Hill is one of the best to ever do it. So it was fucking it was refreshing to see her on this track list.
Let's talk about YKTV now, which featured A Boogie with the Hoodie and YG. And I do appreciate that Nas wants to kind of have that versatility to be able to collab with the newer generation and put on a New York MC like A Boogie. But A Boogie just, he was not he was out of place on this track. Let's
He
just say
was
the
out of
least.
place. It's just like it sounds like every single bar or let's say line that he delivers is lazy. Like
Yeah.
it's always the same flow, and I think I've heard that verse maybe 15 times over on Artist or Artist 2.0. You know, he has to change it up at a certain point. And I understand he's from New York, so you know Nas probably wants to give other New York artists that shine to be able to have those legendary placements. But in a song like this, Nas and YG absolutely blow him out of the water. Like there's no doubt, and not only that, but it's always the same talk. Like it always seems like he's whiny and moaning, and I don't know. I didn't like it. I feel as if it didn't have a place on there.
YG was in rare form though. Like that's one of the hardest
Fire.
verses that I've heard him spit in a long fucking time. Probably since like 2018 Stay Dangerous. Like to me, that was that top tier of a verse, and he really showed out. Apart from that, I mean, Charlie Wilson's vocals, they're just always extraordinary. And he was also on Car 85 off the first King's Disease. And with both songs, as much as, you know, I loved his vocals, but I still wanted to hear more from Charlie Wilson. I wanted a full bridge or maybe a more fully fleshed chorus, but nonetheless, that really amazed me.
Charlie Wilson's vocals are legendary. Like
Yeah.
just having that on your track list,
It's a
adds
glitch.
it just adds so much value, and especially on a song that's so romantic and that has that love like content matter, you need Charlie Wilson's vocals on there. It sets the mood. It's kind of like a Barry White feeling where you go into it and like you start getting intimate and like you know you start to feel the love in the air. So
Yeah.
I love the vocals on there, and shout out to Blast because he had a fantastic bridge on I believe it is called
Brunch on Sundays.
Brunch on Sundays. He has done work with Tyga and different placements, and this was kind of like an unknown feature for me because I'm not too familiar with his music. But once I heard the vocals and once I heard the bridge, I'm like, this had a great place on here. So overall, what's your rating for this, man?
My rating overall for this, I think we have to give it an amazing rating because every feature showed out, including EPMD and of course Hit Boy himself, who I first thought it was actually Currency when I first heard the verse because the vocals really sounded the same to me. But yeah, I think we have to give it an amazing rating because we got legendary verses from Lauryn Hill, from EPMD, from Eminem, in my opinion. And everybody showed out with the exception of A Boogie.
I think I kind of slept on that Eminem verse. I'm going to have to go back and read it because there's definitely all kinds of bars that flew over my head. And I got to agree with you. It was definitely amazing to see all of these features come together and deliver something that's so coherent. But let's move on to the production because Hit Boy obviously executive produced this again. Did not miss on this. And what were your first initial thoughts when you entered this album and you sort of understood the soundscape of the whole project?
I was thrilled that, you know, Hit Boy was behind this again because he was arguably the best producer of 2020, having produced Detroit 2 for Big Sean, having produced the first King's Disease, having done my favorite album of 2020 in Burden of Proof.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, these guys are teaming up again, and Nas, you know, has a very good partner in Hit Boy, and just the variety of beats, the trumpets, the saxophones, the jazzy instrumentals on songs like Moments, on songs like Nobody. There's so much to take out of this. The bass lines really hit. The luxury of the bars mixed in with, you know, everything that Hit Boy was doing on the production side was fantastic. So what are some of your song standouts for production?
I gotta go to Store Run. Like that was my that's my first standout. The drums and the soul sample on the vocal sample, excuse me, on this track match perfectly, and it's one of those tracks where you go into it and I started getting goosebumps because he's already creating that environment for you before Nas even starts his first verse. Like that's what I think Hit Boy does so well in this project is it's not necessarily overpowering, let's say Nas's vocals or even, you know, let's say his verses. Everything is so well done and maybe even a bit minimalistic to a certain extent, so you could hear let's say Nas's verses and you could get that coherence out of it. Even something like, let's say I believe it is called No Phony Love with Charlie Wilson
on that, man.
It was fucking fantastic. Not only that, but it was so low key because the whole song was focused on those Nas verses and Charlie Wilson's vocals. So it was also strategic. It was a chess play in the way that he placed those productions down because it from a fan experience, it allowed me to get deeper into the content. It allowed me to explore different ideas with not having to concentrate too much on the production. And as you said, you know, the jazz samples, the sax samples, there was just so much great instrumentals on this, and I absolutely loved it.
Yeah, and for me, I mean, this was kind of the first time in a while that I heard a lot of, you know, vocal samples that came from, let's say, soul songs that had, you know, that mixed in with very jazzy instrumentals that who knows if they were live or not, probably sampled, but nonetheless, that combination of the two, of the vocal samples and the jazzy instruments, really formed an amazing backdrop for Nas to reminisce over, his times in the 90s in Queensbridge, and really set up a familiar aesthetic that was really reminiscent of the golden era of hip hop. And I loved every second of it. And songs like the sample on No Phony Love, that's what I love about hip hop production, because it always makes me want to revisit the original song that was sampled. So Hit Boy knocked it out of the park once again, and proved to me that he's one of the best producers working right now.
Look at the beat on Death Row East. Like, that's one of the most underrated beats on this whole album, because I'm not sure if you noticed this, but it has a sort of West Coast influence with maybe like, the drum patterns or whatever it is, and then you have like that New York boom bap influence with, the disc scratching on it, and it added to the overall theme of that song, because Nas was going into detail of, the Tupac murder and how they had a beef in the Death Row East situation. And I feel as if like the way that Hit Boy was able to create that environment perfectly suited that track. So it was like Nas and Hit Boy complement each other perfectly in these situations. And if you have to attribute a sort of production style to Nas that I want to see in 2021, it's Hit Boy. He does this the best, and I think it's for a reason that Nas has chosen him to exec produce not the first King's Disease, but also the second one. So listen, guys, another amazing rating for the production. This was fantastic throughout the whole track list. It was super consistent, and you also had trap beats, and you had like hard hitting 808s at certain points. So
the snares, the percussion,
like
everything drum-wise, the drum programming is something that I think Hit Boy really has shown that he's harnessed his skills at, and that's maybe his best attribute as a producer for me, to be honest.
And even something like 40 Side, where it's more trapped influence, like I wasn't a fan of the song as a whole. Like I think that's maybe
the beat slapped, though.
The beat was so fire. Like I could just imagine how hard that goes in the car. And even if it's not a standout for me right now after my first listen, I'm probably gonna have to go back and get this in. But let's go into the instant replay value. This is a major category because this indicates how this album is going to sit with us. So as far as the overall listen and the way that you're going to need to develop over time with this album, and let's say going through all the extra writing and having to go through the verses, what were standouts for you, and what's really going to drive this replay value?
Listen, to me, I mean, it's just there's so much power in Nas's words. So to be honest with you, I could probably spend hours just dissecting a few songs when it comes to Nas, because I'll pick up on double entendres. I'll pick up on so many intricate vocabulary that I'll never have known of before. And it's like, okay, he's really professing this wisdom into the music. And not only that, but the production makes me really want to revisit it because of how luxurious and lavish it is. And honestly, it's just to have music to chill out to and also gain knowledge from. It's the best of both worlds. So to me, this is going to be seriously heavy in my rotation.
Absolutely, and I think I'm on that same page, because as far as Nas material goes, this is some of the best Nas material that I've gotten in years. Like I put this ahead in his year. I put this ahead of King's Disease, the first edition. So I'm in a place right now where I'm going to have to go back and, gain that knowledge and that value from all of the mogul talk and all of like the spiritual talk. I'm going to have to go listen to the production over again to understand how Hit Boy layered all of this. I want to go back and listen to that Lauryn Hill feature over and over and over again, because who knows the next time I'll be able to get a Lauryn Hill feature. Not only that, but I kind of fucked up on the Eminem verse, so I'm going to have to go back and listen to that again and pick up on all the double entendres and put everything together. So originally we had talked about giving this an amazing rating, but I'm going to switch it on the fly, and I think I'm going to have to give it a
perfect rating. That's what I was gunning for at the beginning.
There's just so much stuff to get into in this album, and it's like, how aren't you going to sit with this over the years to come? This is one of the best Nas albums that we've got in recent years, and it's an album of the year contender right now for 2021.
I'm really juggling between this and Call Me If You Get Lost by Tyler, the Creator right now, and I think that, it might be too early to say, but King's Disease 2 might be the best album of 2021. Who knows if somebody could top this, but it's going to take so much. But I want to ask you something. What are your top 5 tracks off of the album?
Top 5 tracks. That's a very good. Let's pull this up right now. Okay, so first one I'm already going with. I think I'm going with Store Run. I think that's my first one. That's for sure. Hold on, it's not letting me pull up the track list. Genius just glitches out sometimes. Hold up.
You want me to go through mine?
Yeah, go through yours first so I can pull this up.
So my number 1 is also Store Run. Absolutely love that track. My number 2 would probably have to be Nobody with Miss Lauryn Hill.
That's my second.
My number 3, I'd have to go with My Bible.
Okay.
My number 4, I would have to go with Moments. And my number 5, give me The Pressure, the intro track.
That's so fire. Okay. So my first one is Store Run. My second one is Nobody featuring Lauryn Hill. My third one is Moments. Like that 3-track run from Store Run, Moments, and Nobody was absolutely fantastic. My fourth, I'm going Brunch on Sundays. Like I feel as if that's gonna be a sleeper in my rotation because I'm gonna end up playing it in the car. It's gonna be super breezy and jazzy for my barbecues. Like I'm gonna be enjoying that. And if I have to go on to another one, ooh, I'm really between Rare and The Pressure. I think those are the 2 tracks that are really speaking to me right now. But I think I'm going to go Rare.
We have a very similar top 5 for this,
because
man.
I think we both know what we want out of Nas at this point in his career. Like, just being a Nas fan over the years, I've been able to gain so much valuable knowledge out of his music. I've been able to grow as a person with his discography and maybe revisit certain albums as I need them in certain moments in my life. So there's a lot of different shit that goes into listening to a Nas album, and I'm going to have to stick with this for the years to come now.
Yeah, man. And, you know, from the cautionary tales about the hood to the cautionary tales about the music industry, Nas gives you so much to unpack and really continues those themes of what it means to have that king's disease and kind of, you know, consume yourself in that lifestyle and mentality of let's get rich quick and spend it as soon as we get it. And he talks about that. He reminisces over these glamorous productions from Hit Boy, which really take you back to an old era. And for me, you know, this is going to be one of the best albums of the year without a doubt, probably my top 5 for sure. And, you know, Nas is showing once again why he deserves to be in that conversation for the greatest of all time. And like he says himself, he's with the Bonos and the Mick Jaggers of the hip-hop genre.
And I think that's why, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to have to give this an amazing rating. This was an amazing listen. The replay value on this is fantastic. Going to have to go through this and dive through all the layers. One of the best performances from Nas that I've gotten in recent years. Full of rich content matter and different stories. Not only that, but we got awesome features, and Hit Boy did a great job on the production. So listen, this is awesome because I always love giving good reviews. You know, I'm happy when I receive awesome music, and this is going to be one of my biggest standouts of the year, guys. So as always, thank you so much for watching throughout this whole review with us. We're covering the hottest drops of the year, so we're going to be doing this on the weekly when albums drop. And guys, listen, if you enjoyed this content, please subscribe. Thank you for watching again, and we'll catch you on the next one. Thank you for watching the video. It's always a pleasure doing content for you guys. Listen, if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel because we're doing album reviews, and we actually have our series called Everything We Know, where we take you guys through the whole album rollout of the hottest releases of the year. Not only that, guys, but our Patreon plan is now live. You guys can access that in the bio. I appreciate you guys, and I'll see you on the next one.